If you love Bitcoin trading around 70,000, but you don't want to go through the hassle of buying on an exchange, I have the perfect idea for you to invest in this public company instead of Bitcoin that moves just like the price of Bitcoin. Before we dive in, make sure you read over the disclaimer. We're going to do some research and I'm going to give you my best ideas of what company, which high growth company invests in the stock market. But understand this is for educational and entertainment purposes only. I am not a professional. If you decide to put any money to work, please seek a professional. Let's get right to it. All right, guys, thank you for watching another episode of All in Society. I am super excited about today's video. I've done some heavy research and I strongly believe, and the market is telling me that I was right about this specific company. So we're going to do some research and I'm going to try to convince you of why this high growth company is screaming buy ahead of its earnings on Tuesday. All right, let's get right to it. First, before we dive in to what company I'm talking about, and you can actually see it on the screen right now, I want to give you a little story. So most of the time, I'll talk to my parents about my investments, companies I love, companies I hate. But there's one investment that my father hates, he doesn't understand, and he will never put a penny, a dollar into it. And that is crypto, and that is Bitcoin. Now, I'm not here to break down the fundamentals of crypto and why you should invest in Bitcoin. That's for you to decide and for you to do some research. But what I'm going to tell you is if you believe in Bitcoin, and you believe over the long term, the price will go up and significantly higher than it is today, then you should, I highly suggest after we do some research that you consider putting some money into this public company instead, which is much easier to invest in rather than going onto an exchange and buying crypto, paying those fees to purchase the crypto. And then there's the issue of security. Where do you want to hold it? Do you want to hold it on an exchange where you really don't own that at all? Or do you like myself and you buy yourself a ledger and it's on a cold wallet and it's secure and you actually hold and own that Bitcoin yourself? But I want to tell you a little story. So the other day, I want to say this was last Thursday, my dad came up to me and he says it with a little snicker, with a little condescending tone. You saw Bitcoin is down to 65,000, right? And once he told me that, it was almost like a sigh of relief because it almost felt like the bottom was in to me. The fact that he knew what the price of Bitcoin was, someone who does not follow it, that means I know the masses on the news are just screaming, telling you, oh, Bitcoin's falling, la-di-dee, la-di-da. And those cases is typically when I feel like the bottom is in. Same way as when everyone's talking about Bitcoin and the price of Bitcoin is being prompted up on the news outlets and it's at all-time highs and everything, that might be an opportunity for you to start taking some profits because that usually means we are at high greed area if the masses are talking about it. So when it rises up and it's up really high and making new highs and the masses are talking about it, that screams sell to me. And then when it's really low and the masses are talking about it, how much is dumping, right there is kind of screaming, all right, this is possibly the bottom as well. Same thing happened kind of in April. I would watch CNBC and they'd have this graphic of, instead of, like right now we're in a bull market, but instead they have this graphic of a bear and it's roaring and it's red and telling you how much the S&P 500 and the QQQ was down because of the tariffs and this and that. Those are the times where Warren Buffett says this: you have to be greedy when others are fearful. And so if you got in at those April lows near my birthday, you rode it back up and you have substantial gains. So pat yourself on the back. It feels disgusting. It feels like you're going to vomit when you put your money in, when it seems like it's just falling and falling and falling and falling. And this is kind of very similar to that as well, in my opinion. All right, so that company, without further ado, is Robinhood. Yes, Robinhood. This is a high growth company, and it is a proxy, meaning it really trades along the sentiment of the crypto and how the crypto is moving. When crypto is up, Robinhood usually rides higher. And when crypto is down, like it is year to date, Robinhood is still down 25%. I want to say before yesterday's rally, Friday's rally, this thing was down about 50% from its most recent high. And so we're going to do some research on why I believe that Wall Street has it completely wrong about Robinhood. And yes, their revenue is generated, quite a bit of their revenue, about 20% of their revenue is generated from crypto and crypto trading. But I'm going to show you through some research why I believe that Wall Street thinks this company's revenue is dependent on crypto, like it's about 40% of its overall revenue, like it was in years prior. But things such as event contracts and other levers and other businesses that Robinhood is rolling out is the reason why Robinhood is decoupling from just a crypto transaction-based company generating massive as revenue to now there's other levers of the company is really pushing shares forward. And so I did a lot of this research going back to the conversation with my dad, and do a lot of research with Google Gemini. And now, mind you, when you do your research, just understand sometimes it hallucinates and gives you false information. So just keep that in the back of your mind. But I sat down for about 30 minutes and showed my dad why I believed that instead of buying Bitcoin, this is the company I should be buying, because it kind of trades alongside Bitcoin itself, and it's a public company. And at the end of that conversation, he was like, yeah, Claude, I think you're onto something. And so if I got him to be a believer, and he doesn't believe in crypto whatsoever, but he understood my research and my understanding of why Robinhood is a great buy, I think that you'll understand it too. And it looks like the Wall Street understood it as well, because Bitcoin started to bounce back higher Friday morning, and Robinhood shares closed almost up 14%. Now, I was already in position. Friday morning, I was repositioning a couple things in my portfolio. So now I have Robinhood shares. I have well over 100 Robinhood shares. I wish I had more. Also bought options as well in Robinhood Friday morning and at Friday's close. And I'm gearing up because I believe on Tuesday when Robinhood reports, these shares are going to absolutely skyrocket if the research that I've done holds true. All right. Now, before we get into the research, please, if you enjoyed that video so far, make sure you like, make sure you subscribe, and make sure you share with your friends and family. Because if you believe this too, you should share it with them as well. And maybe they can get in position and we can all make some money together. And also, in the description of this video, I have an online community on Patreon. There's a free version where I give research like this, and then there's a paid version as well. I'll give you the research, but if you want to understand exactly what I'm doing in order to profit as far as buying shares or selling shares or buying options or taking some profits from my options in real time, you'll see all of those real-time movements in the paid version on my Patreon. I would love to have you. If you don't do anything, please subscribe. Make sure you like this video and make sure you join the Patreon for free. All right, so let's dive into it. So, like I said, I like to go to Google Gemini to really do research. And I understood that sports betting is huge in America, and especially leading up until tomorrow's Super Bowl. So I thought this was also a great time to talk about this. And Robinhood, with its partnership with Kalshi, I believe, has rolled out event contracts in the second half of 2025 and obviously currently. So I went to Gemini, and these event contracts are essentially the same thing as prediction markets. You can bet on the outcome of sports, and then you can also, like last year, the election. You could place a wager who you thought was going to win the election. You can place wagers on the weather is going to be, economics, and a plethora of other themes that you can invest in, if you have a good understanding of whatever the theme is that you want to invest in. So I believe that this was a huge business for Robinhood. And I remembered that there was a post, what we'll talk about in October, and it was proof that these event contracts are going to be a big business, are continuing to be a big business for Robinhood. And that basically brings us to my main point, that Robinhood's business and its revenue is not just solely based on crypto and crypto transactions. And we'll dive into that a little bit further. But for the focus of this, we're going to talk about the event contracts in other parts of the business. And so I put in Google Gemini, I said, Robinhood event contracts business is exploding, growing from 2% of revenue in Q3 to possible double digits. And it says Robinhood's event contracts business is experiencing rapid exploding growth in 2025, quickly becoming a key driver in company's revenue diversification and reshaping its earnings mix. So we'll go over the growth and revenue metrics. The volume explosion. So in Q3 in 2025, total event contracts traded more than double sequentially to 2.3 billion. In October alone in 2025, we saw 2.5 billion contracts, exceeding the entire third quarter's volume in a single month. The entire third quarter, so 3 months, those event contracts in 3 months, October of 2025 exceeded those 3 months. So that is huge. So you see this explosion, this growth in interest in event contracts. And a lot of that probably had to do with they were rolling out sports. You can bet on the later half of the NFL season, the NBA. I'm not sure if the MLB was still going around that time in the playoffs, but there was a lot of momentum gaining, because then now you could bet on sports, which is possibly taking business away from the sports books like your FanDuel, your DraftKings, but that's a conversation for another day. Rapid revenue expansion. Prediction markets became one of the quickest business lines in the company history to reach 100 million in annualized revenues, driven by high stakes wagering on elections, sports such as NFL, and economics. Q4 projection. And so Q4 is the earnings report is actually Tuesday. I believe Robinhood reports Tuesday night. So you still have time to jump and get ahead of this. So in Q4, analysts suggest that with the peak of football season, event contract revenue could more than double from Q3 to Q4, potentially reaching 50 million in the quarter alone. So what are the drivers of this? The partnership with Kalshi. Robinhood is leveraging a partnership with Kalshi to offer legal US-based event contracts. And we discussed this previously. Now, there is a lot of battles going on behind the scenes with the courts, because a lot of these states they have legal sports betting. They don't want Kalshi to operate in their states because the legal sports books get tax revenue. The states get tax revenue from it. But with Kalshi, the states do not receive any tax revenue whatsoever. So Kalshi could be taking money and taking business away from already what's legal in those states. More than likely, the states are not regulated like here. In those major states like California and Texas, these states is where the masses of these event contracts being traded is probably taking place, because there is not a legal option for participants in those states to participate in these event contracts or these prediction markets. And so they're going to Robinhood, or they're going to Kalshi, or they're going to Polymarket, and whoever else offers it instead. Okay? Millennial and Gen Z appeal. The product resonates with younger investors, focusing on entertainment-driven and outcome-based trading. And high engagement. The product experiencing high growth, with CEO of Robinhood, Vlad Tenev, noting that volume has doubled every quarter since launch. All right, the future outlook. While not yet reaching double digits as a percentage of total revenue in Q3, which saw $1.27 billion in revenue, up 100% year over year, the rapid growth trajectory indicates that event contracts are becoming a fundamental, high growth, and as of October, a high volume cornerstone of Robinhood's strategy. So I dove a little bit deeper, and I said, how many event contracts traded in Robinhood in November and December? Because we know about October, but how did they fare in November and December? So we can scroll down here. Here was October, and you can see the trajectory of the growth. And this was August of 2025, then exploded in September. Then we see October, which was more than the past 3 months in Q3. November was even higher than October. And then we fell down a little bit in December, but higher than October. So we see the sequential growth. The volume in November alone surpassed the entire third quarter's total of 2.3 billion contracts. And what was a key driver of this? Growth in the final quarter has heavily driven by the launch of the NFL and college football contracts in partnership with Kalshi, as well as introduction of player props trading in December. And keep in mind, we're going to talk about Q4, but Q4 ends in December. We still have the Super Bowl that's in Q1 of 2026. And then we had the national championship game in January of 2026. So it still bodes well for 2026. And that could lead to really nice guidance for 2026, the entire year, once Robinhood reports on Tuesday. Strategic shift. By the end of 2025, prediction markets became the fastest business line in company history to reach 100 million in annualized revenues. So I dove a little bit further and I said, what percentage of total revenue event contracts projected to be in 2026 and beyond? Previously, it was 2%. Okay. 2%, I believe, of total revenue in 2025. We'll go further. Robinhood's event contracts are projected to become a significant revenue driver in 2026, with analysts estimating they could contribute between 5% and 8% of total revenue. Following a rapid scale up in late 2025, the business reached 100 million annualized revenue rate in record time. And if I go back, I believe that 2% number that I gave you was not in 2025 total. I believe that was the 2% was of two event contracts or prediction markets was 2% of the total revenue of Q3 alone, not of 2025. So move further for 2026 and long-term projections. Revenue share growth. Analysts suggest that if trading volumes continue to grow at current rates, prediction markets could exceed 5% of total revenue in 2026. Some aggressive estimates place a contribution closer to 10% by 2027 as the platform integrates proprietary contracts via its MIAXDX acquisition. And I believe that's just the platform that allows them to conduct these transactions. Volume supercycle. Deutsche Bank analysts describe prediction markets as being in a, quote, supercycle, projecting contract volumes could reach 1 trillion by 2027, over 5 trillion by 2029. Total revenue context. Robinhood's total revenue is forecast to reach approximately 5.5 billion in 2026, up from estimated 4.5 billion in 2025. Strategic catalyst for 2026. Vertical integration. In January 26, Robinhood acquired a 90% stake in the MIAXDX, a CFTC-regulated exchange. This allows them to list proprietary contracts and capture higher margins by bypassing the third-party fees. So before Robinhood, and when we break this down real quick, this business model is completely different from the traditional online sports books. And that's why I really believe that, yes, we could be these event contracts like Robinhood and Kalshi are offering could be taking market share from the sports books, but they're not really impacting the bottom line that significantly, because Robinhood and FanDuel and those guys, those traditional sports books, they make money off of how much you guys lose in your bets. And what they're trying to do is they try to take an even amount of money on both sides, all right, based on what the odds that they offer, all right? And so their revenue is substantially higher than what Robinhood's revenue model is. Robinhood gets money from every time you trade these contracts. They don't care who's winning or losing. They don't generate revenue from there. The sports books generate revenue from when you guys that place your bets and you lose. And most people on those traditional sports books love parlays, and those are a high revenue earners for the sports books. Now, Robinhood's going to allow parlays on there, and I've taken part of it myself, but that revenue model is completely different, and it's almost laughable compared to the amount of revenue and profits and the margins that the sports books, these traditional sports books, are getting. So understand the difference. So if you are a believer in the traditional sports books as well, I believe companies Robinhood and FanDuel are also screaming buys right now because their shares are at or near 52-week lows. I just really don't think Wall Street really understands this business. They don't understand that Robinhood's business is not derived strictly from crypto and transactions. It's 20% of its business. But if these event contracts keep rising, as long as your option contracts and the other revenue models that Robinhood has, that 20% is going to continue to shrink while the other revenue models are continue to rise. Okay, so that means that they are not as dependent in crypto transactions as Walmart thinks. I said Walmart, as Wall Street thinks. Okay, and same thing with the traditional sports books. Wall Street really doesn't understand the difference between the business models, and they don't understand that majority of the customers that are using these prediction markets and event contracts are from folks who are in states that they don't have a legally regulated sports book that allows them to place bets. Okay, so that is another option for you guys. It's for you to do research as well. Product diversification. Beyond election betting, the 2026 growth is expected to be fueled by custom combos, which are parlays, and hedging tools for real-world risks like interest rates and commodity prices. AI integration. The company introduced Cortex, an AI-powered investment assistant, in late 2025 to help users navigate complex event contract strategies. And then you can see the projected revenue growth. Look at this. This is amazing to see. And I want you guys to do your research on the rule of 40. Okay? Do your research on rule of 40. And Vlad Tenev in December, and during an interview, he said their Robinhood's rating was at 100. That's what their score was. So do your research of what that means, and that's astronomical. That means Robinhood has great margins and their revenue growth rate is amazing. Absolutely amazing. And we can see by this total annual revenue forecast. Look at this. This is amazing. This chart really tells it all. So that's it, guys. I'm done screaming at you. I hope you learned a lot from this video. I hope that if you decide to invest in Robinhood and you want to take advantage of this run, I think that you're going to have to do it before Tuesday, because I think once Robinhood reports and Vlad Tenev, CEO of Robinhood, tells a story, and if these numbers hold true and there's nothing else that's surprising, I believe, and this is just my prediction, it's not guaranteed, that Robinhood shares are going to be $100 or more by the end of next week. All right. If you enjoyed this episode, please like, please share, and absolutely please subscribe. Grow this page. I would love to provide more research and find more opportunities for us to put our money in and make our money work for us, not for us to work for our money all the time. All right. Love you guys. All in society. Peace.